There are two sides to the Chinese virus war. Trump supporters like me, former Democrats who were gay and working class white males. We're trying to fix the problem. We're trying to manage it. And we are succeeding splendidly. And then there's the other side, which seems determined to kill as many people as they can. And if you want to keep going on with that, then by all means, continue to vote for the Democratic Party. Although the Republicans would have done the same thing 4 years ago. It's kind of like when Hillary Clinton stabbed us in the back over the Iraq War back in 2003. It just confirms that my company panicked and got rid of me, that they violated my civil rights, that they threw every white employee under the bus, and that while they pretended like they cared about the virus, they really didn't give a rat's ass. So let's look at the new data. This is an interactive map I found yesterday. Everything made sense when I started interacting with it and looking at the different counties. This is Collin County, where I live, which voted for Donald Trump by 17 percentage point. 176 out of every 100,000 is our caseload. I live in Collin, but I work in Dallas County. It's right next door to the south. It voted for Hillary Clinton by a little more than 26 points. Caseload, 542 out of every 100,000. More than 3 times higher. Catching this virus has nothing to do with black poverty and white oppression. This comes from the George Floyd protests. Now, until I interacted with this map, I'd assumed it was the opening of the bars in time for Memorial Day and the protests that are responsible for our sudden high numbers. I formally retract that here. We have bars in Collin County, we opened them too. So it's obvious we have the problem we have, as relatively trivial as it is, because we're next door to Dallas County. Without them, we'd be even better off. This is Tarrant County, which includes Fort Worth. They voted for Donald Trump, but by less than 9 percentage points. And as they went down the middle in 2016, they are likewise going down the middle in 2020. 350 out of per 100,000, a little more than twice our number. You know, there's a rule of thumb you can follow. And as far as I've been able to see, there's not been a single exception. Again, if you want to kill a bunch of people with the Chinese virus, then vote for the Democrats. Here's California, age-adjusted Chinese virus deaths per 100,000 people compared to Texas. Apples to apples. This virus hits old people harder. Notice in both places that whites in dark blue are doing much better than Asians in light green. Asians are richer than us. Once again, the outcomes from this virus have more to do with behavior than access to health care or poverty or racism. It's certainly true for black people, so I suspect there's something Asians are doing that's also making them more vulnerable to the Chinese virus. Ironic. But also notice, all across the board, there are a hell of a lot more people dying in Democrat-controlled California than Republican-controlled Texas. And remember, this is per 100,000. California has more people, so the absolute numbers are even worse. Texas mortality rates, a third of the WHO. The United States in general, 3 times higher than ours. Top 10 states in numbers of total cases, not adjusted for population. Just raw numbers. I mean, if it were adjusted for population, not a single Republican-controlled state would be on this list. Third column, colored column from the left. You see the mortality rates. You see our 1.2%. The lowest by far among the top 10. The second lowest is Florida at 1.4%, also run by Republicans. Now look at the deaths. Second column from left in red. You can't see it well, but our percentage of deaths to overall population is 0.01%. I think that has just jumped up. I think it's 0.016 now, so I think that might be jumping up to 0.02. But New York and New Jersey are 0.2%, 20 times higher than that 0.01%. Illinois, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania are 0.1%, 10 times higher than Texas. Or 5 times higher if we bumped up to, if we're bumping the 0.016% up to 0.02%. So it's obvious they're either lying about their numbers or they were killing a bunch of patients. Now, in a previous video, I noted that I'd only heard, I haven't seen, that the border counties, which is full of Mexicans, were also getting hit hard. And I thought, well, that's strange because, well, surely they're not doing Black Lives Matter protest. I mean, maybe they are, but no, I'm pretty sure what's happening is Mexico is dumping its sick people into our healthcare system. Yeah. Lavaca County, almost 9 times higher than Collin County. Victoria County, more than 9 times higher than Collin County. Nueces County, almost 7.5 times higher. And Wallasey County, once again, about 7.5 times higher. So I get fired from my job because we have a bunch of people who won't take responsibility for their own lives, and my company was terrified of them. And all those people who won't take any responsibility for their lives or their behavior expected me to take responsibility for it. So we have Muslims flying planes into buildings, so now I can't go to an airport and see my friend off. We have Chinese bringing viruses into our countries. And we have African Americans acting up and Hispanics acting up and going crazy. And so now I have to wear a muzzle when I go out in public. Even though, as a white man, this is not going to be much of a problem. This is an interesting quote right here. Those young and healthy people who currently walk around with a mask on their faces would be better off wearing a helmet instead, because the risk of something falling on their head is greater than that of getting a serious case of COVID-19. This Beta Stadler is a former director of the Institute of Immunology at the University of Bern in Switzerland, a biologist and professor emeritus. Now, let's think about this virus, and I'm just going to, a couple more sections here. I'm going to talk about the virus itself, how viruses tend to work, tend to, not always, and how we fight viruses and other pathogens. Okay? The next part, I'm going to talk about your responsibility as a citizen of a republic in dealing with this virus. And I did videos on this before, on how to deal with the coronavirus. I did try to pass that information on to the people, to my management at my work, but they all blew that off. And then we're going to look, when we talk about the virus and how our bodies deal with this, pathogens, we'll talk about what my company did. And I'll show you that they didn't give a rat's ass about this virus. They just played politics. Now, this virus is obviously dose dependent. What does that mean? Well, most viruses are. The heavier the dose, right, the sicker you're going to get, the more likely you are to die. The lighter the dose, the less sick you're going to get, and the less likely you are to die. You might not even get sick at all. But what this is going to do is it's going to irritate your defenses, and they're going to react to it. And so this will increase. And so if you have a bunch of people getting low dose exposure, okay, you're going to get closer to pack immunity, not herd immunity. I'm not a cow. I'm not in a herd. Pack immunity. Let's change that. I'm pretty sure they picked that on purpose, what they picked. Now, how does our body respond to pathogens? They have two ways. We have the antibodies. And everybody goes, oh my God, the antibodies are disappearing. No, there's another way. It's called the cell-mediated. I've talked about this before. Cell-mediated defense uses something called cytokines. I don't pretend to know exactly what's going on here. I only know what I saw in a video on YouTube and read on Wikipedia. Now, the titer of the antibody defense, that's the concentration of antibodies and the variety of antibodies that respond to a pathogen. The titer of the antibody defense weakens as we get older or we don't take care of ourselves. We'll get into that. We talk about your responsibility as a citizen of a republic. If we go from there, if that doesn't work as well, we move to cell mediation. This is what's killing people, because as we rely more on cell mediation, these cytokines get out of control in what's called a cytokine cascade. I don't know of any such overreaction from antibodies, but that in itself is killing a lot of people, not the virus. So we keep exposure rates low. We're not going to not be exposed to this virus. Remember, nobody ever said anything was ever going to stop this virus. It's going to have its say. So how are we going to make sure that it doesn't overload our healthcare system and get pack immunity as quickly as possible? I think we have our answer. Make sure we have a lot of low dose exposure. So that means the antibody defense is more likely to be successful, and you're less likely to have to go to the cell-mediated. And the cell-mediated is less likely to overreact. Now, this is a continuum. Who knows? You know, the dialectical materialism I learned, a quantitative change. Quantitative change leads to change in quality. You warm up water, it gets hotter and hotter, then it flashes into steam. The laws of water are different than the laws of steam. They're two different animals, basically. It's the same thing here. Who knows when it's going to flash into that cytokine cascade? So what we need to do is figure out activities that can cause a high exposure in a short period of time. For example, we don't want to yell at each other in an enclosed space. Because if you do that, you spread the virus further and you spread more of the virus. Okay? You don't want to be in enclosed spaces for long that are not well ventilated. And so you want to lock them, so you want to clean them off more often. And that's what they needed to do. We can't avoid this. Let's try to keep it down to low exposure. Okay? And as I said about that quote, about for young people, we cannot be cutting ourselves off from this virus or from interaction with the pathogenic world in general. Because if you don't use your immune system, you're going to lose it. And by freaking out about this virus, you're decreasing your body's ability to respond to this. Now, in my video, how the brain and the body work together and help your body and brain and body fight the corona, I talk about how everything in your body is its own intelligence. Intelligence is like gravity. Okay, intelligence is not just in the brain. Just like gravity is not just in the sun. It's all spread out. There's a higher and lesser concentration of intelligence, but it's all there. And your immune system is part of your intelligence. So, what was my company doing? Well, I don't want to say who the company is, again, because this is corporate America, it's not just company, but I'll say we built computer chips, we work in a wafer fab. We have two fabs, one is class 1, the other is class 2, or class 10, I can't remember. Anyway, the class 10 is 10 times dirtier than the class 1. I work in the class 1. Well, the class 10 is still cleaner than an operating room. We both have laminar flow, which means the air goes from top to bottom. This keeps the particles down, and the bacteria, and the virus. And of course, we're wearing the bunny suit. We have the gloves. We're wearing a mask. We have our hair covered. They had us wipe down the fab every day. Why? It does, from what I've just talked about here, what good is that going to do? It's going to do no good whatsoever. But it's because remember, your body has its own intelligence. By having people get in there and clean stuff up all the time, it's kind of freaking them out, isn't it? It's adding to the hysteria, to the neurosis. That's what it's doing. On the other hand, I was on the safety team, and it drives me, and I've talked to people even in the training class, because I'm a trainer, you know that if you watch my other videos. It drives me crazy when I'm out somewhere and I don't see people grab the handrails when they're going down the steps, because you want a three-point connection. You want to grab those handrails. Well, we're not wearing gloves when we're grabbing handrails outside on the staircase. Are they wiping down the handrails? Are they wiping down the break tables every time in between everybody sitting there? A big vector is the commodes. You flush a commode, it sprays stuff for 10 feet away. So you're in a stall, so this commode is spraying this stuff all over, the virus all over the stall. I never heard anything about the stalls. Should be wiping down the stalls all the time. Nobody was doing that. If you actually were doing your due diligence to deal with the virus, you would have known this. You would have known about the ventilation. You would never have suggested to wipe down the fab. Never in a million uses. What do you want to do that for? Just exactly what I was saying. What do you want to do that for? They supported Black Lives Matter. They killed a lot of black folks with this. Sure did. Oh, we care about race. Oh, we care. No, you don't. You don't give a rat's ass. That's what that white guy taught me. The guy that you threatened to fire because he mouthed off to the people doing the screening. It's exactly what he says. He says, if they really cared about the virus, blah, blah, blah. If you really cared about the virus, you wouldn't have supported Black Lives Matter. You wouldn't have said anything about George Floyd. You know this is a politically charged environment because you had to shut off the news in the break room on the TVs. I'm glad you did, because now they have these house flipping programs and they're kind of fun to watch. So this is a politically charged environment. On one side, the deep state people, they've weaponized their followers to attack Trump people like me. And this African-American woman, this black woman who attacked me, yeah, that's what she did. And you helped her get away with it. I think it's very interesting that the woman in charge of personnel in my fab never told the vice president of human resource that I had been harassed racially. I've been having trouble with this woman. And then, of course, it gets back to me that everybody's saying I'm a racist. This is a perfect shitstorm. You're in a perfect shitstorm. Our responsibilities as citizens of a republic. I say what they told me when I was in the military. Your mother does not run this government. You need to take care of your business. And everybody wants to talk shit to us white people and spit in our face and call us sons of bitches with their hands out for free stuff. If the company had just talked to me and sat me down and talked to me, I wouldn't have been mad about anything. I honestly didn't understand why Hispanics and black people were freaking out about this virus. I didn't, honestly, I'm just like, well, I mean, we'll just talk about it. I had no idea. I didn't understand. But instead of saying, gee, white people are, and we're doing really well. We're doing really well. Instead of saying, what are they doing? Let's go see if we can learn from them. You just decide just to blame us for all your problems. And throw us out of our jobs and fire us from good pay. This is the best paying job I've ever had in my life. I don't think I'll ever get a job this good. So you're either going to hire me back with a raise. I was going to be there for the next 15 years. Either that or you're going to buy out my career and pay me money for that career that I've lost. Now, my general rule of thumb, well, first of all, I'm going to talk about exercise. Anytime you start an exercise regime, always talk to your doctor. And everything that I talk about here, there's a general rule of thumb that I follow. You should always push yourself. Push, but don't shove. Introduce a little chaos into your life, into your body. Let your body's intelligence scramble out and take care of the chaos, but not too much chaos because that can break you down. It's kind of like 52 card pickup. You want to play a game of 52 card pickup? Yeah, sure. So they throw the deck up in the air, they spread all over, and you got to pick up the cards. Pick up, the chaos. All right. Be aware that a lot of this is going to cause little changes in your life, and they're not going to be obvious. And I'm going to give you a little test so you can see that actually it's working, even though you won't know it from day to day. All right, first of all, when you see something coming like COVID, and I talked about this in the video, how to fight COVID, when you see it's on the way, not when it's happening, but when it's on the way, do a 48-hour fast, just a water fast. Your body will break down bad, weak immune cells. When you start refeeding, which you want to do with bone broth and lean protein, your body will launch stem cells that will become new immune cells. So you'll get a rebooted immune system. And this is also a little bit of stress that you have on your body. Okay? It's going to reboot your immune system. You want to protect your digestion with bone broth. Spend the money on pasture-raised and fermented foods. 80% of your immune cells are parked in your digestion. By the way, this killing off of cells is called autophagy. Okay? So you have some autophagy. There's what I call you hear about this, well, the Navy's building these aircraft carriers, everybody can shoot them down now, can just sink them. Well, there's something that the Navy has called a kill chain. In order to destroy an aircraft carrier, you have to find it, then you have to track it. Because this thing moves in 30 minutes, it moves so quick and is so nimble. Within 30 minutes, it's inside of a 700 square mile area. And there are like 5 steps, I think, in the kill chain. And every single step, the Navy has somebody there taking care of that step. You're not going to take out an aircraft carrier. There's something I call an autophagy chain. It's also called a metabolic pathway, by the way. Have some green tea with ginger. Spritz a little bit of ground pepper in it, because ground pepper amplifies the ginger. Put turmeric in more of your food, black pepper, and some fat for turmeric to help you digest it. Green tea, turmeric, ginger, they hit different parts of the autophagy chain. And this helps your body just reboot everything more in general. Fasting won't do that in general. 48 hours is a sweet spot because after that your body starts raiding its protein stores. Okay? Take a Scottish shower. When you're done with your shower, turn off the hot water completely. Rinse off completely. Get all nice and cold. Stress out your body a little bit. It's the same kind of stress your body goes through when you're jogging, but don't do jogging because it's bad for your bones. Do HIIT instead, high intensity interval training. 10 minutes a day before you go into work, you'll feel like $1 million. You'll feel like $1 million. 20 minutes on a day off. It'll rev your metabolism up. You'll also do plyometric exercises. Basically, you bounce like a ball instead of splat like a tomato. It's very, very good for your muscles and bones. After you have it, have yourself some bone broth or some collagen. You can get those collagen powder. Sleep. For about 5 hours, your brain does repairs. And what happens after you repair a road or repair a house? You have junk everywhere, right? You got to clean it up. After the repairs, your body will flood fluid in and out of your brain. It will literally wash your brain. So get a minimum of 6 hours. 6.5 is probably best. Okay? Now, this is a game of inches. This is trench warfare. You don't turn on a dime. You won't notice these changes over time, but here's the way you can see that I'm right. Have someone you love and trust take a picture and write down what they think about you. Tell them to be honest, be loving. Ooh, can't imagine what my friends would think about me. And then put it all away and don't look at it. You don't look at it, they don't look at it. 3 months later, have them do the same thing. And then look at what they said before and after. Look at what you look like before and after. You're going to like what you see. This is the kind of advice I was giving people at work. I knew it was hitting African Americans hard and Hispanics hard. And although I want to just harden my heart and tell you to go to hell, you know, we all get caught in these ideas in our head, including us. There's something I call the brick wall. It's a constellated opinion, a collective opinion of groups it's just flat out wrong. And I see it in Hispanics, and I see it in black people. I see it in white people too. Talking to heterosexual white men back in 2003 about George W. Bush and the Iraq War, it was the same brick wall. I call it the brick wall. And although I'm angry at the company, well, the company's just going to have to pay me. And frankly, I'm going to do good things with the money. So this, I know exactly what I'll do with it. It'll be wonderful things. But I'm not mad at the lady who harassed me. She is very much caught in her own world. She's treacherous, she's conniving, but I sense in her every once in a while a good heart. I know she's trying, and let's just, whatever. But the bottom line is this on this COVID virus. Texas was sabotaged. We were doing really well. We were pissing people off. Our governor was standing up to pressure. By the way, I want Governor Greg Abbott to run for president in 2024. I want him to run. I'm so impressed with this man. So they sabotaged us. They stirred up these Black Lives Matter protests, which will hit the black community harder than the white community, and will hit the Texas black community harder than, say, the Louisiana black community or the Michigan black community. Because they already didn't give a rat's ass about them. They'd already been dying off in large numbers. This just made things worse. But I will tell you this. I love you. You're a human being with a soul. I cannot judge your ultimate fate, but I'll tell you this. We white people are doing just fine. Learn from us. Don't learn from us. If you don't want to learn from us and blow us off and spit in our face and call us sons of bitches and endanger your own life, there's nothing I can do to stop you. I can pray for you. I can try to talk you down off that cliff. I will always love you. And I'll always know that for most of you, because there are evil people in the world, you're doing the best you can. We all are. Now, as for my company, I was just following orders. It was not a valid excuse for concentration camp guards at the end of World War II. I was just following the advice of the CDC is not going to be an excuse here either. Now, corporate America in general, and not just my old company in particular, as I've said several times, has taken a healthy dump on the Constitution of the United States of America the last 50 years. It's clear to me you've taken China's side in this virus war. You have. You've taken China's side. And it's time to make and white people like me who have to put up with this crap from Google and from online places, it's time for us to make your life miserable. Because as you can see, I talked about this in my video, Trump has won Civil War II. You can't fight us. We can't lose in our fight against you. Just as they're collapsing under the weight of this virus, this is exactly what I told you. High infant mortality rates, low lifespans, a lot of chronic diseases. You fall victim far more easily than we do. Not because we're superior to you or you're inferior to us. It's because We've been Christians for centuries. And as we're Christians, we've come up with wonderful ways to manage society. And you can learn from us and survive things like plagues, but you don't want to, because you listen to people who hate us and frankly hate you. If you're a Mexican or you're black, you think these people love you? If I believed that Derek, whatever the hell his name was, Chauvin, was guilty of murdering George Floyd, and if I agreed with Black Lives Matter 100%, I would nevertheless have dropped to my knees and begged you, please, in the name of God, please don't go out and go to those, because you're going to get sick, you're going to get grandma sick, you're going to get grandpa sick. You're going to kill a lot of people. I beg you, stay home. Don't go mix with these people out on the street like this, because they are not your friends and they do not love you. God bless.